There have been a lot of movies based on video games. However, there have also been a lot that were in development but never got made. So these are some of those video game movies that were in development, what they were going to be about, and why they were cancelled.
Here we go!
The Super Mario Bros. Movie was a financial juggernaut, but Super Mario Bros. Was a box office disaster. 1993's live-action attempt to bring the popular game franchise to the big screen did so poorly financially and critically that Nintendo didn't allow any studio to license their characters into movies for 30 years. The animation studio behind 2007's TMNT tried to pitch a Legend of Zelda movie to the gaming company in the mid-2000s, but were rejected for that very reason. But back to the live-action Super Mario Bros. Movie, it was hoping to get a sequel because they literally set one up, with Daisy bursting into Mario and Luigi's apartment asking for their help. What is the help she needs? Well, according to a webcomic sequel written in 2013 by Stephen Applebaum, Ryan Hoss, and one of the movie's screenwriters, Parker Bennett, Mario and Luigi accompany Daisy back to Dino Haddon to battle Wart from the Super Mario Bros. 2 video game.
You're never gonna believe this.
I believe it.
Warcraft is such an expansive universe that could have so many movies and spin-offs, and the first film set up a future. Director of that movie, Duncan Jones, wanted to adapt the second video game, Warcraft Tides of Darkness, for the second movie, but admitted the chance of that film happening was unlikely. Despite being the highest grossing movie based on a video game at the time, it cost so much to make and market that it actually ended up losing money overall. On top of this, reviews were unfortunately underwhelming, and that's all we have on that. I think those reviews were the reason for the disappointing box office. I mean, it still made over 400 million. I think enough time has passed to make another, so if a reboot is reviewed well, it could become a box office success and start a franchise. Though unlike other video game adaptations that are getting TV treatments, I feel like Warcraft is something that has to be a film, as it seems too expensive for streaming, particularly with all the CGI that would be required.
Ask them if they plan to return.
God of War was an instant success, so in 2005, the same year the first game was released, Universal Studios announced that they were making a film adaptation of it. 5 years later, the game's co-creator, David Jaffe, said someone had been cast to play the main character, Kratos, but didn't specify who. A couple of years later, the screenplay writers Patrick Melton and Marcus Dustin revealed that the film would humanize Kratos while exploring his past. But by 2021, Sony said that a God of War film was no longer in development. However, the following year, it was confirmed that a live-action TV series was in the works over at Amazon, looking to adapt the Norse era of the games. Writers had been hired and were in the process of penning the scripts, but by late 2024, the studio wanted to go in a different direction, so those writers left and they're now starting again. Although it does look like they are still moving forward with some kind of version of a God of War series, which wouldn't be surprising due to the popularity of the games.
From this day, I shall carry forth your will.
Despite the success of the Far Cry game, the box office of the 2008 movie was a far cry from success. The film only made $743,000 on a budget of $30 million. So instead of getting a sequel, in 2013, game developer Ubisoft announced that they would not only be rebooting the first-person shooter, but also be making a Watch Dogs and Rabbids film. However, by 2019, those Far Cry plans shifted to making a Netflix show instead. And in 2023, the 6-episode anime Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix, was released, a series inspired by Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. The Watch Dogs movie may have taken a while to get going, but filming wrapped on September 13, 2014, so despite there being no scheduled release date, there is still a pretty high chance we'll be seeing this film. As for Rabbids, that was going to be animated over at Sony Pictures Animation with an expected release date of late 2016, but for unknown reasons, this never got made and the rights moved to Lionsgate. By 2022, 80 seconds of test footage was released online, which kinda has a Minions vibe to it, though this was the last we heard about that project. Maybe they leaked it to try and get that Deadpool effect. If enough people talk about the test footage, maybe that'll speed things up in releasing a full movie. Tom Clancy was a highly successful creator who's had books being adapted into movies and books being adapted into games, but some of those games that were going to be adapted into a movie were Splinter Cell and Ghost Recon. The game's developer, Ubisoft, announced this in 2011, who were looking for a film distributor while they remained close to the project for creative control. New Regency ended up being the production company to help the movie get off the ground, while Tom Hardy was cast as Sam Fisher, which was said to focus on the younger years of the character while in his prime and have a unique edgy action style, while still retaining a PG-13 rating. Notable action director Doug Liman came on board to direct Splinter Cell in 2014, with filming expected to start by August. But when Liman dropped out and Ubisoft decided they wanted a rewrite on the script, it looked likely to be lost in development hell. And that's where it remained until 2024, when it was announced to be officially cancelled. But on October 14, 2025, an animated series, Splinter Cell Death Watch, will premiere on Netflix.
Nice of you to finally pay me a visit.
1994's Street Fighter had a post-credit scene, so you know what that means. The studio was intending on continuing this franchise. That post-credit scene teased Bison still being alive. Despite the film not receiving great reviews, it did make $100 million on a budget of $35, so a sequel was planned. But once those plans fell through, most of those ideas were used for the 1995 Street Fighter animated series. Street Fighter: The Legend of Chun-Li rebooted the film franchise, but was a financial disaster and somehow did worse review-wise, so that movie didn't get a sequel either. However, in 2023, another reboot was in development with a planned release date of October 16, 2026, and has a cast of actors which includes names like Noah Centineo as Ken, 50 Cent as Balrog, and Jason Momoa as Blanca. Because Angelina Jolie had no interest in returning for a third Tomb Raider movie, the studio decided to not move forward, even though producer Lloyd Levin said the sequel's box office was enough for it to come about. For this reason, it was rebooted in 2018. However, that only lasted one feature. In 2019, Free Fire director Ben Wheatley had signed on for Alicia Vikander's Tomb Raider sequel with a planned release date of March 19, 2021. However, filming was put on hold due to that pandemic thing. The delay led to Wheatley leaving the project to direct Meg 2: The Trench and replaced with Lovecraft Country showrunner Misha Green. By 2021, she revealed that the script had been written with the working title Tomb Raider Obsidian. But by the following year, no further movement had progressed, leading to MGM losing the film rights to the franchise. So it now looks like the next time we'll see Lara Croft in live action is in an Amazon series written by Phoebe Waller-Bridge and starring Sophie Turner, which is expected to start filming in January of 2026.
I'll take two.
Like Tomb Raider, Hitman is a property movie studios have had a couple of cracks at adapting into films. Hitman Code 47 was a Microsoft Windows exclusive game and was the first in the Hitman video game series. This has gone on to spawn a number of sequels, plus a couple of movies, including one in 2007. The film starring Timothy Olyphant as Agent 47 made just over $100 million at the box office on a budget of only $24, so 20th Century Fox hired Kyle Ward to write a sequel, Daniel Ben Mayer to direct, and cast David Hess to act in an unnamed role. However, Olyphant had no interest in returning, stating in 2013 that he only did the first to pay off his new house. This is one of the reasons why the studio instead decided to reboot the movie franchise with 2015's Hitman Agent 47, starring Rupert Friend. Unfortunately, this cost more to make, made less at the box office, and was somehow reviewed worse than that 2007 film, so future plans for this universe were also cancelled. One of these proposed sequel ideas was to have a shared gaming cinematic universe featuring Hitman, Just Cause, Tomb Raider, Deus Ex, and Thief, because this was 2015 when everyone was trying to replicate the cinematic universe success of the MCU.
Assemble.
Disney was hoping Prince of Persia would be their next Pirates of the Caribbean, with multiple sequels. But after the first generated an underwhelming $336 million at the box office on a budget between $150 and $200, plus mixed reviews, future films drifted into the sands of time. Or something. A similar situation happened over at 20th Century Fox when they were making Assassin's Creed. They were already in development on 2 more films while the first was being made, with the second being set during the Cold War. However, once again due to the disappointing box office and reception, those plans were cancelled. Assassin's Creed is a franchise with so many games and a large fanbase, so I'd be surprised if this is the last time we see a movie or live action show based on the series.
What do you want from me?
Your past.
EA did not feel the need for a Need for Speed sequel, despite one being announced shortly after the first film's release. Even though it only made $200 million worldwide, 66 of that came from China, so the intention was for EA and the China Movie Channel Program Center to co-produce the second entry, filming most of it in that country. However, seeing as though the last time we heard anything about this movie was in 2015, I'm gonna say it's been quietly cancelled. I do, however, feel like this is the type of franchise that could start back up again, because there's always an audience for movies about fast cars, action and crime.
I feel the need for speed.
The stealth action adventure Sly Cooper released its first game in 2002, then a decade later it was revealed a movie based off the series was in development. And not only was it in development, but Blockade Entertainment and Rainmaker Entertainment went out of their way to make a teaser trailer promising a 2016 release date. Now, just because there's a trailer doesn't mean they were deep into production. In fact, by 2016, the year the movie was supposed to be released, it was announced by director Kevin Munro that they hadn't even started production, presumably because the production companies were focusing on another video game movie, Ratchet Clank, a film that would ultimately be the reason why the Sly Cooper movie was cancelled. On a budget of $20 million, the Ratchet & Clank movie unfortunately only made $14.4 and was negatively reviewed, which means not only was the Sly Cooper movie done, but so was the Ratchet & Clank sequel, which would have presumably paid off the mid-credit scene where Nefarious is still alive, but now as a robot. The animation picture company, best known for the 2022 Marmaduke film, purchased the rights to make a Spyro the Dragon movie in 2007. The plan was to release it at the end of 2009, but was delayed to mid-2010 before the game's publisher, Activision, pulled the plug as they were planning to take the character in a different direction for the games, that being Skylanders. As for what the film would have been about, we know the exact plot, because in 2022, the script was leaked online. Basically, Spyro is a dragon of prophecy who's rescued as an egg from the Dark Master forces. He's raised by a family of dragonflies, including Sparks, before reaching an age where he wants to discover his true identity. So, Spyro sets out on a journey to find his place in the world alongside Sparks. Together they battle Cinder and the Dark Master's armies, free captured dragons, and learn the values of courage, loyalty, and truth.
I think I smell a barbecue.
Castlevania, more like Cancelvania, because not only was a film called off in 2009, but so was a TV show in the late 1980s. The gothic horror adventure series was created in 1986, and due to its popularity, it was considered to get a show a couple of years later as a part of the Super Mario Bros. Power Hour segment that featured animated shows based on Nintendo video games, although only a Mario and Zelda show made the cut. Fast forward to the 2000s, when a live-action movie went into development. Crystal Sky Pictures acquired the film rights in 2005, who signed a notable video game movie director, Paul W.S. Anderson, to write and direct. Anderson had previously worked on 1995's Mortal Kombat and 2002's Resident Evil. Production was supposed to start in early 2007, but kept getting pushed back. Anderson dropped out as director to make Death Race, there was a writer's strike, and one of the distributors, Rogue Pictures, was bought by Relativity Media. This ultimately pushed the movie back, losing all momentum, causing it to be officially cancelled in 2009. However, the script has been leaked online, which I didn't read, but I did read some summaries from others who have read it, who said it's a period piece following a recently re-risen Dracula summoning his legions of darkness to put fear into Transylvania. Simon Belmont uses the legendary vampire kill whip to fight and defeat Dracula, but is cursed in the process. And who would have played Dracula? Well, according to James Wan, who was attached to the film at some point, he approached Nicolas Cage for the role. Cage would later go on to play Vlad in 2023's Renfield.
I am Dracula.
Before The Last of Us became a TV show, it was going to be adapted as a feature film. In 2014, Spider-Man director Sam Raimi was set to produce with Screen Gems distributing, but after 5 years in development hell, they lost the rights, eventually going to HBO, who made the show. Another game that was going to be a movie, but eventually became a TV show, was Halo. This started as early as 2005, when 28 Days Later writer Alex Garland pitched the idea to studios dressed as Master Chief. He then wrote a script before District 9 director Neil Blomkamp came on board. 20th Century Fox and Universal were to produce the film together, but had to pay the game publisher Microsoft $5 million to option the film and 10% of the box office. These movie studios thought that was too high, and dropped out. However, when promoting the Halo 3 video game, Blomkamp produced a series of live-action shorts for Microsoft. So he did technically direct a Halo film.
Touching down soon. Fall back. Fall back.
On top of all those video games, there were also a number of others that were in development but had little to no details surrounding them. Sony Pictures Animation acquired the rights to make a Roller Coaster Tycoon film in 2010. A producer on 2005's Doom said a Doom 2 Hell on Earth film would go into immediate production if the first was successful at the box office. It was not, so it did not. Former Vice President of Sony, Suji Utsumi, tried to get a Crash Bandicoot movie made in the mid-90s, but was rejected by studios thinking video games is a toy business. This could be due to video game movies having previously been unsuccessful, or that they weren't quite in an era where making movies based on toys was a thing. J.J. Abrams' production company, Bad Robot, has been working on a Portal movie since 2013 that's not officially cancelled, but certainly in development hell. Plants vs. Zombies began development in 2015 at Warner Bros., but nothing came of that. So, a few years later, the game's co-creator, Rich Werner, pitched a script to DreamWorks Animation, but that too amounted to nothing. Crazy Taxi was my favourite game to play at the bowling alley, and it must have been Superman director Richard Donner's favourite too, because in 2001 he was going to direct a Crazy Taxi movie, though that ultimately fell through due to lack of ideas on what the film could be about. Robin Shou signed on for 3 Mortal Kombat movies in the mid-90s, but no one was required for that third film due to a disappointing box office of the second, and reviews of the first 2 were underwhelming. Armanda was going to be an animated feature for DreamWorks, set for release in 2006 until the game publisher Metro 3D closed down in 2004. Blue Sky Animation was working on Spore, hoping for a 2009 release date. In 2016, it was announced that the platformer Klonoa was going to get an anime film. Sony was working on a live-action Infamous film in 2009. In 2018, Paramount announced that they were working on a live-action animated hybrid film based off the indie game Monument Valley. DreamWorks had the rights to make Crimson Skies in 2001. However, Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow has been referred to as the spiritual adaptation to that game. Max Payne got a movie in 2008, but it also had a post-credit scene, so you know what that means. They were expecting a sequel, but it didn't do great financially or critically, so instead a reboot started early development in 2022. Another video game movie with a post-credit scene is 2020's Monster Hunter, so they too looked hopeful of a sequel. However, despite COVID majorly affecting its box office, the mixed reviews makes it unlikely we'll learn who this hooded figure is. Warner Bros. Announced in 2005 that the Condemned universe was going to get a tie-in movie as opposed to an adaptation on the games. The Neverhood is a point-and-click adventure game co-created by Doug TenNapel, who was trying to adapt the game into a claymation movie in 2007, but was unable to secure funding. The LucasArts adventure game, The Curse of Monkey Island, released storyboards for a movie version Lucasfilm was working on in 2011. After the massive success of the mobile game Temple Run, Warner Bros. And Harry Potter producer David Heyman were in talks with the gaming developers in 2013 to adapt the idea into a film. And speaking of mobile games, Om Nom the movie would have been based on Cut the Rope.
Let the games begin.
If you want to know more about other council movies like Marvel, DC, Star Wars, film series that never got a conclusion, and more, you can check those out in the playlist. But thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments which of these video game movies you wish were made, and don't forget to absolutely obliterate those like, hype, subscribe, and share buttons. I'm just kidding. Only do it with enough force that it registers. I don't want any of you breaking whatever device you're watching this on.